Hi, I'm Todd Mikesell, owner of Real Fly Rod, and this is Matt Parker, our general manager. Today we're going to talk about Sage fly rods and give you an overview of the entire Sage family of fly rods. And Sage has produced some amazing fly rods over the years, and these rods are all USA handmade on Bainbridge Island. It's the same 27 set of hands that produces every one of these rods. And I can just tell you that the finish on these rods is impeccable. We've got beautiful hardware. We're just basically talking about some of the most legendary high performance rods that are on the market today.
One of the cool things too that I like about them is when they come out with new rods, the paint's a little different, so they show up in your boats and then in your arsenal a little bit different. It's cool. Yeah,
we end up with some demos and some firsts and seconds, and some get to cast some really interesting rods. So my history with Sage goes back a long time, about 40 years, and I can remember my dad was an avid fly angler, and I can remember fishing with his RP rods. I can remember the XP. I can even remember casting a RPLXI 12 weight in the yard when I was probably 11 or 12 years old, and this rod was bigger than I was, but it was very impressive.
My first rod was an SP that my dad got me when I was probably 8 or 9, and that was the first rod that I've got everything all the way up to a bonefish on a 6-weight. So
Sage has produced some amazing rods over the years. I can just think of the XP, the RPL, the SP,
yeah,
the GFL,
yep,
a Z-axis.
Yep. I love their bass series.
We said the XP, which may be the all-time favorite.
Yep. Yep.
General consensus. Personally, my all-time favorite, Z-axis. What's yours?
Mine would probably be the Z-axis as well. That was a killer rod. But now they got some cool rods.
Well, then we went to the 1, we went to the X, and then, of course, we're going to talk about the R8 core. But our history with Sage is we've been a Sage dealer now for 15 years, and we are actually one of the largest Sage dealers in the United States, and we do have the largest inventory of Sage rods, I think, anywhere. But the interesting thing is when I first started the business, I actually received a visit from Bruce Kirshner.
Mm-hmm.
And Bruce, if you don't know, was one of the founders of Sage back in 1980, and he came over from K2 Skis. And he came to visit me when I was in my infancy, and it was almost embarrassing because I actually had this office set up, and I had temporary rod racks set up on the wall, and it wasn't a fly shop at all. And here comes Bruce Kirshner, and I tell you, we just hit it off, became fast friends. We stayed in touch for a long time, and Bruce actually retired a few years ago, and I was fortunate enough to be at the retirement party in Denver at the IFTD show. So wonderful man, miss him dearly. But I know that the other thing is we've known the original Sage rep for quite a while.
Yep.
We've worked with the first original Sage rep in several different capacities off and on the years, which is kind of interesting. Fly rods are a very personal thing.
Yep.
And when you find one that you really love, sometimes we joke that maybe you should buy 2 because it's going to be discontinued and you're going to be out of luck. We're going to talk about the entire Sage rod family here,
Yep.
and I'm going to turn it over to Parker, and he's going to go ahead and give us a run through.
Yeah, so one of the cool things about Sage is that they're trying to get people from that beginner intermediate into their brand. And one of the cool things in the past couple of years is they've made a rod called the Foundation. Foundation is one of our #1 selling Sage rods. It's a rod that we definitely emphasize for that, again, beginner intermediate angler. But it's great in feel, action, accuracy. I mean, you can't even get any better USA made rod for $400. I mean, it's great. These things come in outfits as well. You can certainly shop online, but if you're moving from that real entry level stage, or maybe getting a year behind you, go up to a Sage Foundation next time around.
I started my sons out with the Sage Foundation, and let me tell you, this step up, if you are fishing some of the mid-level gear, there's some great brands out there. If you are interested in stepping up to Sage, the Foundation is a great step into that handmade USA rod.
After that, we get into the mid-price. And what's really cool about the mid-price rods is, this is technology with the graphite and resins that are only 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. Sometimes they're doing a very similar taper to the very high-end rods, just without that graphite and resin. But a couple cool rods that they're showing off right now is the Maverick for the salt and the Sonic for the freshwater. So talk a little bit about the Maverick.
The Maverick is an incredible rod because the Maverick packs, I would say, 90% of the performance of the high-end rods that you'll fish and that are available today. But this rod is, it's roughly half the price. And for the intermediate saltwater angler, somebody that's just getting into saltwater, maybe you only travel and get to the salt 3 or 4 times a year, this is a fantastic rod. It's a rod that actually will correct for flaws in your casting stroke. It's powerful enough to drive big flies, wind-resistant flies, and actually put them on target. So it's a great weapon to have when the wind kicks up on the flats and it's usually windy.
And very durable. We haven't had really any issues with the Maverick, me using it myself or any clients. It has a lot of good backbone.
Which is impressive because we know that we've had some customers that are out there landing some pretty big tarpon on those rods.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the coolest in comparison is the freshwater series, the Sonic. What's really neat about the Sonic is this rod kind of comes from a taper evolution from SP, XP, Z-Axis, 1, that sort of thing. But really the Sonic is for that trout angler that's looking for a perfect dry fly presentation rod that's mid-price. It could soft tackle swing, maybe lightly nymph, but really feel in action is really what the angler's looking for with the Sonic.
Yeah, we haven't seen a rod like the Sonic because it is a mid-priced rod that is has the widest sweet spot. It appeals to virtually any angler. It actually will help any angler throw tighter loops. And this is one versatile rod. It will cover any situation. It's just that was a home run by Sage.
Next 2 rods are kind of that mid-price specialty rod. The first one that me and the team really like is the Payload. Smallmouth and bass fishing in the summertime is kind of our go-to, and the Payload can really deliver, sinking tip lines, the triple density lines that we're talking about, big flies, dumbbell flies. It can really handle anything. But a lot of guys are using Payload for tournament fishing, for saltwater fishing, but also it has a lot of backbone for even the salmon guys too.
Yeah, I tell you what, the Payload, that rod is a rocket. And so if you're in a drift boat and you're throwing big streamers up against the bank, grab yourself a 7-weight, and I tell you what, that thing is a cannon. Yeah, great rod.
The next cool rod is, they just came out with this last year, is the Sense Rod. The Sense Rod is that high stick nymphing rod that kind of in the past, 5-6 years, it's really just picked up in terms of a craze where a lot of guys are doing this method and application. And what I found with the Sense Rod, fishing it myself, was it has a very sensitive tip, which I equal to potentially landing more trout. It's very lightweight in the hand, but it also does a very good job of actually giving you feel and action throughout the rod as well.
Yeah, and I mean the Euro nymphing craze, just to put it in a nutshell, this is the most productive fishing technique. It has been around forever, but it was really fine-tuned and perfected in the tournaments in Europe, and then has come over to the United States. So if you're looking for the most productive way to fish, and maybe even just expanding your skill set, stretching and growing your fly fishing skills, Euro nymphing is a great way to go, and that Sense Rod, would that be a good choice for beginners? Yeah,
and actually a lot of these rods that we're going to talk about, they're kind of like that golf club that actually can make you swing better. So if you take one of these out, it's going to make you a better caster. It's going to make you have a little bit better timing, more accuracy. So yeah. Going into, I think, what are the coolest rods. Being a Sage Pro Elite myself, I get to kind of test run a couple of these rods, but the first one is the Dart series. So now you're getting into their latest and greatest, which we call HD Kinetic technology. This is high-end resins and a nice roll of graphite. And the Dart is really cool because being in the Midwest, this thing goes all the way down to a 0-weight, but this is your perfect small stream rod.
I tell you what, the Dart is, this is an amazing little rod because if you fish small streams and creeks and you are trying to get in and out of this tight cover, you know that you're going to end up inventing more casts based on the situation, just trying to get your fly from here to there. The dart is an absolute weapon when you are in that tight cover. It is a precision tool. It is a tool that's going to catch more fish, and you will find little pockets and be able to present exactly the weight you want with this rod.
Maybe one of the best small stream rods actually on the market that we found. Going up from there is actually a rod that we would characterize as, you know, you already have maybe that low to mid-price trout rod, and you're looking for a really good, you know, feelable, actionable, accuracy type of rod, and then we think it's the Trout LL. And the Trout LL to us is great between a 4-weight, 6-weight, especially for that eastern, western trout guy. But we sell a lot of these actually.
Yeah, the Trout LL is a wonderful rod, and I would classify this as a very versatile dry fly rod. So you're actually going to be able to do some things with this. Small streamers, you'll be able to turn over some smaller nymph rigs, but primarily what you're looking at is you are looking at a very precise precision presentation tool. This is one that, I mean, if you are throwing upstream, you know, and doing an aerial mend, and you've got a moving pocket of water, and you're going to throw, you know, this is the rod that you want in your hands. It will make the cast.
So what's really neat is the next rod, the Sage ESN, has actually been through a lot of iterations, and we find that this kind of started the craze here in the U.S. The original ESN was kind of a stout rod, but man, you could really do some heavy nymphing with it, especially fast stream guys that are trying to get that tungsten down. The newer one with the HD Connect technology is lighter in hand, it's more sensitive at tip. We sell a lot of these in that 3-weight 10, 3-weight 10-6.
Yeah, interesting about the ESN. This was the premier rod to hit the market 2 years ago, and we had guys that were trying to locate these all over the world, trying to track them down. And fortunately, Sage has finally been able to catch up with production, and we're able to get a few of these rods in and out of the shop here and there. If you want to learn the Euro nymphing game and you want to go the best of the best, check out the ESN, and especially check out our ESN complete outfit, because we've got that perfectly balanced with an ESN with a Euro nymphing reel and a specialty fly line leader. The entire package is ready to go.
And we think that this is for the guy that's their #1 stick that they're fishing. You know, they're going out every single time and high sticking, or maybe just nymphing in general. The ESN is going to be the stick of your choice. Moving on to a cool, these two type of rods. One's kind of a freshwater, could be used as saltwater, and then one is specifically designed for saltwater. But the Saltwater HD Rod, I've actually had a lot of experience tarpon and permit and bonefish fishing, and what I found is, you know, through the iteration between the old Salt and to this HD, is that it's super light in hand. It has a super powerful butt section that you can hold on to the fish and actually muscle them to the boat. But the really cool thing is the sensitivity and the flex, and probably the last 6 inches near the tip, is you can deliver that 10 to 20 foot cast, you know, next to the boat, but then you can really power out 60, 70 foot if there's a rolling tarpon. I find that this is one of probably the best saltwater rods on the industry right now.
And over the years, we have followed, we both fished the saltwater, and we have followed from the original Salt. Well, we had the XI2 and the XI3, and then we had the Salt, and then the Salt HD, and I'm sure I missed a rod model in there.
No, but you got the XIs. Those are good rods too, but this HD outperforms them all.
And I tell you, every step of the way, we just said, okay, how can you make this rod any better? And we were like, you can't, okay? So we would get sent the new demo before it hit the market, and we would go out and we would cast it, and we would say, holy cow, they just made it better. So the Salt HD, this is an amazing tool. I can't say enough good things about this. This is the weapon of choice on the flats.
One of the coolest rods that we are starting to pick up, and has been in the series for a couple of years now, is the Igniter series. And this is kind of a technical rod. This is a guy that's a fast action caster, but really he's throwing on sink tips throughout the day. He's making 60-foot long dry fly casts. He may be nymphing. He may be doing a lot of stuff, or he or she, but you know, the Igniter is really going to have a lot of action, but a lot of power as well. And so we typically use this here on the eastern side for bass and maybe some steelhead, salmon type of fishing. But out west, this could be actually one of the best dry fly rods, you know, at a distance you can get.
And yeah, the Igniter rod series, this is a rod that is really not designed for most anglers. We are talking a rod that is just wickedly fast. This will generate line speeds and distance really like no other rod on the market. That also makes it very challenging to cast because it will not correct for flaws in your timing or your casting stroke. So if you are a technically proficient caster and you love a fast action rod, you need power, you're going after muskie or you're in the saltwater or anywhere you need to throw big wind resistant flies, handle heavy sinking lines, battle the wind, the Igniter is going to be a great rod. But again, it's not a rod for everybody.
Yeah, it gets those line speeds nice and fast. And then the last rod, which we're super stoked about, is the R8. This is their flagship model, just came out this year. Me and the team actually had the ability and still have these rods in our arsenal and fishing them pretty much every day. A lot of guys have the 5-weight and the 6-weight. One of the team members have a 4-weight 10, so we've kind of covered a little bit of the series. And what we found is this is the most versatile rod that you can get out of the whole Sage lineup, and actually in terms of the industry, one of the finest rods that's ever been made. And what I would suggest, that this is a type of rod that this is for your angler that's fishing every day, you know, certainly a guide. It could also be for an angler that really wants the best of the best and can outperform, you know, every day, you know, while you're out there on the stream.
We were so excited about the R8 core launch. This is the first time that Sage has produced an all-new graphite in their rod series in 22 years. And so when we talk about the legendary rods that they've produced over the years, okay, this was the biggest release that the industry has ever seen. We were super stoked to get our hands on this. We were fortunate enough to get rods, R8 core rods for everybody. Yep. Took them up on a weekend fishing trip and tested the heck out of them. And it was just, it's an amazing rod.
And yeah, check out, we also did a comparison of the 1 and the X and the R8. Check that on our YouTube channel as well.
Well, great. That is an overview of the Sage fly rod family. One thing that I'd like to share with you is that if you would like to try any Sage fly rod at home, we will send it to you. You can try it in your yard, cast it risk-free. You can then love it or return it. We can work with you to get the right rod in your hands. And you can also shop from the largest collection of Sage fly rod combos, as well as go into any Sage fly rod and actually build your own custom outfit online with our outfit builder. If you need more information about any of the Sage rods, our expert pro staff is here to help you. You can go online. You can actually book an appointment to shop with an expert. We can outfit you virtually online, yep. Which is a new service that we're offering. And thanks for joining us today. We appreciate your time. And until next time, see you on the water.